Social media is a con game enslaving artists to make the social media owners lots of money. Real art sales happen on hidden art markets that are easily accessible for emerging artists, are not saturated, and attract elite art collectors and investors. I'll show you how you can find these art markets, why they are so much more effective than social media, and how you can sell your art through them. The first hidden art market is one that I stumbled upon by accident when I was showing at the Othero Art Fair during the Frieze Week in London. I put up my booth and I walk around to meet the other artists. Everybody is nervous as hell. A lot of people paid a lot of money to be there, and for most, it's all or nothing. If this fair doesn't work out, it's over. And there's this one lady, she's in her 40s, and I go over to her because she's very nervous and she looks a little bit insecure, and she talks to me and she says, well, I've been trying to sell my art on social media for years and haven't really sold anything, and because of that my husband is not really that supportive anymore. He doesn't really want to invest in my career anymore, and he doesn't believe in it. He wants me to quit because he sees that it's kind of hurting me a little bit. And I look at her art, and in my personal opinion, these were not the best pieces in the world, and so I immediately felt sorry for her. Anyway, art is subjective, so you kind of never know. A couple of days later, the fair is over and I see that she has tears in her eyes, and so I go over to this lady, trying to give her comfort, trying to support her out of compassion, and she tells me that she sold 16 pieces in that fair, more than she sold in her entire life. And so I clearly misread the quality of her pieces as well as the state of her emotions. She was crying out of joy. She was very confident. She was walking tall, very proud, and ready to tell the news to her husband and chase her dreams for the next decades to come. A couple of weeks later, she sent me a message. I already forgot about it. Turns out that her husband secretly bought 4 of the 16 pieces that she sold. Now, why is this a hidden art market? There's something hidden about these markets, namely the profits that you can make in those markets. I remember talking with the gallerist who stood at Art Basel, and she told me that 80% of her revenue came from Art Basel alone. That's 80% in the entire year during a couple of days. And so these are hidden numbers that artists simply don't know about. How are you going to find these markets? Well, here's the thing. There are 2 types of art fairs for emerging artists. The first fair is kind of a scam because they're trying to rip off artists. They're trying to let them pay for being on the fair without doing a lot of promotion, without bringing collectors to the fair, which is obviously a terrible thing for artists. The second type of art fair is very good. They do everything according to the books, and they bring those collectors, they bring those good vibes, and they make for a very good event for artists. And so the question becomes, how can you scan these art fairs to know which ones are really good and really powerful and which ones are absolute crap? The first thing that you have to do is ask the artist who stood on the fair. You would be surprised of how many artists are willing and happy to help you out and happy to tell you about their experience that they had last year or the year before that. The second thing that you want to do is to search for the track records of those fairs. Do they have annual events or perhaps even several events throughout the year? Then that's pretty much a good sign. If this is the first time they organize it or the second time they organize it, you probably want to stay away from those things. What else are you looking for? Well, you're looking for promotion and marketing material, of course. Look at these fairs. How are they promoting themselves? Ask them, how are you promoting yourself and how are you going to promote this fair? And then ask yourself, are these marketing strategies actually any good? And what percentage of the budget would this be that they are spending on marketing? And then you can compare the answer that they are giving you, and you will pretty quickly see which fairs are actually doing a good thing and which fairs are kind of rudimentary at best. Now, what happens if you've done all of this research? Well, I would suggest that you go into the doing mode. I like to use the 50-30-20 rule when it comes to research on art fairs. 20% research, 30% talking to other artists, and then 50% doing. And what is that doing? It is attending the art fair as a guest. And as you are attending the art fair, you want to see the atmosphere, you want to see how many people are lining up, how many people are coming, how many booths, the size of booths, everything. But you also want to talk to the people that are showing at the fair. Now, what you are going to ask them matters a lot. If you are going to, for example, ask them, well, did you sold a lot of artwork on this fair? Of course, they are going to say, yes, this fair has been amazing. I'm selling so much. And so this is not a good question. What you have to ask them is if this is their first time going to this particular art fair. The bad art fairs, you can go to the 150 arts that are showing and all of them will be there for the first time. The good art fairs, however, will have artists that are there for the second time or the third time because they had a good experience last time. Now, before we go to the next hidden art market, I have a surprise for you. I've prepared a PDF document several pages long going over everything you need to know about art fairs and how to make the right choice and how to prepare for it so that it's an absolute success, way more than I can share in this video. I'll give it away for free at the end of the video. The second hidden market are niche art consultants who are targeting particular niche markets, like for example corporations or healthcare facilities or hotels or things like that. Now, why are these hidden markets? Well, let's take hotels for example. They are not going to go onto Saatchi and search for art and then try to create art in a particular style that fits the hotel and all of that stuff. No, they have money, they want to outsource that, they don't go to galleries for that because that's a very small segment of arts that are represented and they still have to find the right galleries that have the right art for the hotel, all of that stuff. They're not going to do that. They are going to work with dealers or art consultants that are specializing in that niche, that know exactly what they want, that know about their customers, that know about those vibes, that can design a whole space for them. Now, what does that mean for arts? Well, 99% of artists are working with galleries or online galleries or going on social media. Less than 1% are working with these art consultants, aka these are not saturated markets at all. Now, how can you find these art consultants? Well, you could do cold outreach. You could find them on LinkedIn or other websites and then just send messages to them. You could also find them during industry events, art events, conferences, interior design type of conferences, and stuff like that. You can also go towards particular groups that are designed to target those people. There's one called the Association of Professional Art Advisors. Sure, there are going to be some art consultants in that group. As a matter of fact, there are over 20 ways that you can find these art consultants. I've made a list of that. I'll share it for free at the end of the video as well. Now, what are the benefits of working with these consultants? Why would you in God's name give a portion of your profits away to a consultant for finding some clients or buyers? Well, here's the thing. There's a particular type of creative freedom that comes with that. If you find a consultant that you connect with, then you can, at least for a period of time, go into a art making mode and let the marketing side and the sales side be done by them. This is very freeing for some artists. On top of that, a lot of these clients that they are working with, let's take the hotel example again. Well, these hotels are not only buying a lot of pieces because they oftentimes have several hotels or need to have the interior of an entire hotel, but also they are renewing their interiors every couple of years to kind of have a fresh element there. And if you are transforming your art and growing as an artist and reinventing yourself quickly enough, they might be interested again. And so now you have returning clients. And so working with a good consultant definitely gives you a reasonable return that makes it worth it. And are there particular things that you can do to make it way more likely that you can work with these consultants? Well, in the beginning of this video, I kind of was a little bit rough towards social media and suggested that it's not the best place. But here's the thing. If you want to sell directly on social media, it's probably not the best place. There's a lot of stuff out there that's way better, but it is a very powerful tool. If you have a lot of social media followers, it will become way easier to find those consultants, to bring value to them, to show them that it's worth collaborating with you. And if you look at those hotels, well, some of those hotels might be very happy with some extra marketing that comes from your social media pages. And so social media is definitely not a bad thing. It's actually one of the most powerful things out there. You just have to use it in the right way and don't just try to sell art on social media only. Most artists, they don't have a gallery page or an online gallery or a website where they sell their art. They're selling directly on social media, and that is not the best way to go about it. The third hidden art market are private collectors who want to operate in a particular type of secrecy and privacy. Usually, art dealers are the gatekeepers of those collectors. Now, you might be wondering, why are these collectors not buying from regular artists, not going to art fairs and buying from artists there, or going on Saatchi Art and buying art like that? Why are they working with dealers that take huge commissions, and why are they then paying for those commissions? Well, here's the thing. In these scenarios, you are dealing with higher ticket art sales. We're talking about artworks of $100,000 or more, 200, 300, 400, and there's a lot at stake. There's a lot to win, but also a lot to lose. And here's the thing, these buyers, they are in the market for a couple of years. They don't have a lot of experience yet. They don't necessarily know how to price an artwork or how to evaluate an artwork. A lot of artists who have been doing it for 10 years or 15 years don't even know how to price their artworks. And so these collectors, they don't know that art is a very subjective thing. On top of that, they also require a particular type of privacy. They have oftentimes massive collections, and they don't want huge eyeballs on their massive collections exposing the amount of wealth that they have. They want to fly under the radar, and so all of this results in a demand for some kind of privacy, trusted source that these art dealers provide. Now, is it even possible for emerging artists, beginner artists like us to enter these marketplaces if you didn't sold at those price points yet? Well, a couple of things to note here. First of all major artists, all artists that you've ever looked up to, all established artists at some point were emerging artists who entered those markets, and so it's definitely possible. So there are a lot of examples, and whenever you see a lot of examples, it means that it's absolutely possible. How do emerging artists break into these private art collector markets? Well, the first trajectory that I can see is the Keith Haring method. So here's what he did. First of all, he made his art very accessible, put it in public spaces like subway stations, and so what is going to happen if you do that? Well, thousands of people are going to pass those subway stations on a daily basis. Do that for a couple of years, and millions of people have seen your art. Millions of people have wondered, what are these images? Where do they come from? What does this stand for? What's this all about? And then, in his first couple of exhibitions, what happens, of course, that they became successful because people were already very familiar with this art. And then when those exhibitions became successful, when gallerists start seeing that people were actually buying these works, then they obviously start to get interested as well. Art dealers start to get interested, and the whole ball starts rolling from there. And then we have Keith Haring as we know him today. And so what happens here in this process is very simple, but also pretty powerful. The key element is grabbing attention. It all started with going into those public places where they would be able to grab a lot of attention and then use that attention as a leverage point to build their art career. And so the question becomes, how can we grab attention today in the 21st century with the possibilities that are happening today? And then we arrive at the same thing, social media. Social media is probably the most fair game for artists that has ever been developed in the history of humanity. There are no gatekeepers on social media, and it's very fair, meaning whoever has the highest click-through rate, the highest audience retention, and the highest average view per viewer will win the game. And you can hack that. You can become good at that game and then win that game, and that's very rare. I have never seen something in the history of the arts where that was possible. And so social media, perhaps not the best place to sell art, but definitely the best place, or one of the best places, to build your art career up and then use that as a leverage point the same way Keith Haring did. The second trajectory to access these hidden private art collector marketplaces is the Basquiat trajectory. I've obviously just named it the Basquiat trajectory. It's not an official trajectory or anything. Here's the thing. Basquiat also starts out as a street artist, but unlike Banksy, for example, he was not that successful as a street artist. He didn't really build up that huge amount of attention around his art, but what he did do is use that to enter and integrate himself into other art scenes, and then through networking become friends with Andy Warhol. And then once you're friends with Andy Warhol, what happens? Well, Andy Warhol starts to introduce you to collectors, to those hidden pots in the art market. And so that is another way to do it. And so depending on your skills, you will choose one of those two trajectories. If you are very good with social media and you're somewhat of an introvert and you can very easily work your ass off behind the camera, go for that. If, however, you have huge networking skills, you have a personality, you have charisma, you have all of those things, networking with other artists is probably another route that you can choose that can absolutely be as lucrative, as beneficial as anything else. Now, am I saying that Basquiat became famous just because he networked, just because he met Andy Warhol? A little side note here before everybody's going to jump in the comments and criticize this whole thing. Of course, I'm not saying that. Basquiat also has great art, very neo-expressionistic text on the canvas, which was read on you at that time. Very expressive, very raw, very authentic, immediately jumps out, immediately is recognizable. And so there's a lot to say about that. And he's obviously also a great artist. And so whatever strategy you choose, great art is always going to help that strategy succeed. Now, what's more? Well, as promised, here's a checklist for finding art consultant. For the art fair checklist, you'll have to click the link in the description because otherwise it's too long. Now, very important, as a side note, this entire video is absolutely worthless if you don't figure out how to sell your art and build up a small track record so that you can prove to those markets that your art is sellable. And so you will have to find the easiest way to sell those first couple of artworks. I've made a video called Best Place to Sell Your Art Online, selling art online fast, link in the description and in the end screen. That said, get the hell out of here.